Welcome to HornAfrica Insight, your source for East Africa's top news. In today's edition, the U.S. plans to extend African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA. Egypt's El-Sisi underscores the Nile's existential value in talks with Rwanda's Kagame. Ethiopia outlines its nuclear power ambition. Somalia imposes new visa rules on Somali origin visitors, and Egypt voices frustration with Kenya over Ethiopian Grand Renaissance Dam. 5 stories shaping the Horn this week. Subscribe, hit the bell, and let's dive in. Lesotho's Trade Minister Mokhethi Shelile announced on September 24, 2025, that the U.S. intends to extend the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, for 1 year, following a delegation visit to Washington from September 15th to 19th, per Reuters. Shelile, after meetings with U.S. House Ways and Means and Senate Finance Committee officials, said there was broad agreement that AGOA must continue, with a promise that extension would come by November or December. AGOA, which provides duty-free access to the U.S. market for 32 African nations, is set to expire on September 30th, 2025. The urgency comes after Trump's April 4th tariffs, including a 50% duty on Lesotho's textiles, later reduced to 15% in August, put millions of jobs at risk. Lesotho, heavily dependent on textile exports to the U.S., worth $276 million in 2024, a 4.6% increase, warned that factory closures were imminent without renewal. AGOA supports Lesotho's export-driven economy, particularly textiles supplied to U.S. retailers like Walmart. A Democratic Senate Finance Committee spokesperson confirmed ranking member Ron Wyden's backing, but the Trump administration has not clarified its position. Shelile pledged to closely monitor developments to protect workers and industry. While a 1-year extension may bring temporary relief for African exporters, long-term renewal remains in question. Will this extension stabilize African trade or simply delay uncertainty? Egyptian President Abdel-Fattah El-Sisi declared the Nile a matter of existence for Egypt during talks with Rwandan President Paul Kagame on September 23, 2025, per Aram Online. At a Cairo press conference following the signing of multiple MOUs, El-Sisi stressed that Egypt would reject any infringement on its water rights while promoting cooperative development across the Nile basin. His remarks came amid heightened Egypt-Ethiopia tensions over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, GERD, inaugurated on September 9th, which Egypt fears will reduce its share of Nile waters. The leaders discussed a wide range of bilateral ties with relations dating back to 1962 recognition. Signed MOUs included cooperation in water management, logistics land provision, police collaboration, housing, and investment protection. El-Sisi also praised Rwanda's reconciliation and rapid economic growth, offering technical support via the Egyptian Agency for Partnership for Development. Kagame, in turn, affirmed Egypt as a vital partner, highlighting projects like a cardiac care center in Kigali and expanded pharmaceutical collaboration. Both leaders also addressed regional matters, rejecting the displacement of Palestinians and supporting a two-state solution based on 1967 borders, in line with the UNGA 80 New York Declaration. El-Sisi commended Rwanda's balanced approach to Nile issues, while Kagame welcomed Egypt's expertise in irrigation and water management. Egypt's strategy reflects a broader push to build stronger ties with upstream states as part of its water security diplomacy. Can Egypt-Rwanda cooperation foster greater harmony within the Nile basin? Ethiopia's nuclear energy program will take at least a decade to materialize, according to Minister of Innovation and Technology Belit Molla at the IAEA's 69th General Conference in Geneva, September 2025. Molla thanked IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi for pledging support to help Ethiopia launch nuclear power by 2035. Grossi also confirmed plans to supply radiation therapy equipment for Tikur Anbessa Hospital in Addis Ababa. Following his June 2025 visit to Ethiopia, Grossi reaffirmed the Atom's 4 Food Initiative to address nutrition needs, as well as the delivery of a Siemens Health Linear Accelerator, LINAC, to ease long waitlists for cancer treatment. These moves, Grossi said, reflect the IAEA's commitment to Ethiopia's development goals. Molla underlined that Ethiopia's nuclear program is strictly peaceful, aimed at energy, health, agriculture, and environmental needs, aligning with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's development agenda. The government is now upgrading regulatory frameworks and building institutional capacity. Observers remain cautious, pointing to high costs, safety concerns, and the availability of cheaper renewable alternatives such as hydropower, solar, and wind. Ethiopia's current energy mix, anchored by the 5,150 megawatts from the newly inaugurated Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, provides a strong base, but nuclear energy is a far more complex endeavor. Can Ethiopia realistically deliver nuclear power by 2035? Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud announced that visitors of Somali origin holding foreign passports will now require visas to enter the country, per a September 2025 statement. Being Somali is no longer enough. A visa is mandatory, like for any foreigner, Mohamud declared. The policy, effective immediately, impacts more than 2 million members of the Somali diaspora in Europe and North America, sparking confusion and criticism. The rule is tied to Somalia's new e-visa program, launched September 1st, 2025, designed to modernize immigration, strengthen security, and enhance the country's international standing. Mohamud argued that the policy simply mirrors the treatment Somali passport holders face abroad, making it a matter of reciprocity. The move underscores Somalia's efforts to reinforce sovereignty after decades of instability. However, diaspora communities fear the measure could complicate family visits, business ties, and community links. Somalia's immigration system, historically informal due to years of conflict, now faces a significant transition. While the policy could improve border management and generate revenue, practical challenges loom. Can Somalia strike a balance between security goals and its vital diaspora connections? Egypt expressed frustration with Kenyan President William Ruto's attendance at the Ethiopian Grand Renaissance Dam inauguration on September 9, 2025. Speaking on September 24th, Egypt's ambassador to Kenya, Hatem Yosri Hosni, called the move disappointing, as Kenya was the only Nile Basin country, other than Ethiopia, present at the event. Cairo argues the Ethiopian Grand Renaissance Dam operations violate international law and the 2015 Declaration of Principles. In a September 9th letter to the UN Security Council, Egypt labeled Ethiopia's unilateral filling and operation of the dam illegal, noting that 98% of Egypt's water needs, about 55 billion cubic meters annually, depend on the Nile, mostly from the Blue Nile. Hosni stressed Egypt's respect for upstream nations' development rights, but underscored the urgent need for a binding trilateral agreement with Ethiopia and Sudan. He called the Nile an eternal bond for Egypt's 150 million people and highlighted Cairo's willingness to cooperate in areas such as electricity, healthcare, and housing. Kenya's National Assembly Speaker, Moses Wetangula, defended Nairobi's position, emphasizing that Kenya imports Ethiopian electricity and contributes to the Nile via Lake Victoria. He urged Egypt not to focus solely on Ethiopia, but to engage all Nile Basin countries in dialogue. Water should unite, not divide, nations. This exchange highlights Egypt's growing diplomatic isolation on Ethiopian Grand Renaissance Dam and Kenya's effort to position itself as a regional bridge builder. Ethiopia, meanwhile, continues to frame the dam as essential to its energy future. Can Kenya play mediator in this deepening Nile dispute, or will frustrations persist? From African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, extension to Egypt's Nile frustrations, the Horn remains a region at the center of global and regional debates. Comment below with your thoughts, subscribe, and follow us on X for updates. HornAfrica Insight, where East Africa's story shines. #HornAfrica Insight.